A covenant with the reader. This book makes you no promises of easy answers. It does promise care. You will not be told what to believe. You will not be asked to surrender your agency. You will not be reduced to a diagnosis, a label, or a theory. This book recognizes that hallucinations are real experiences, regardless of how they are explained. It also recognizes that fear grows when experiences are taken out of context, stripped of grounding, or filled with interpretations that overwhelm rather than heal. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to disagree. You are allowed to seek professional help at any point, and encouraged to do so when safety is at risk. If at any time this material feels destabilizing, your well-being comes first. Step away. Breathe. Reach out to someone you trust. This book does not exist to define you. It exists to walk with you while you decide what is true for yourself. You are not broken. You are not abandoned. You are not beyond care.
Chapter 1: When the Mind Speaks. There are moments when the human mind speaks without being asked. A voice with no visible speaker. An image no one else can see. A presence that feels undeniable, even when logic insists otherwise. For many, this moment arrives quietly. For others, it comes like a storm. Across history, cultures have struggled to explain these experiences. Some have called them visions. Some have called them illness. Some have called them spiritual encounters. Some have called them danger. Rarely have they been approached with gentle curiosity. This book begins with a simple truth. Experiences can be real without being literal. Meaning can exist without being threatening. Understanding can grow without fear. Hallucinations do not mean a person is weak. They do not mean a person is evil. They do not mean a person has failed spiritually or biologically. They mean something in the system, mind, body, nervous system, or sense of meaning, is under strain. The human brain is not a passive camera. It is a predictive organ. It fills in gaps. It searches for patterns. It tries to protect us when the world becomes overwhelming. When trauma, exhaustion, isolation, grief, or prolonged stress exceed what the system can hold, perception can shift. The mind may externalize what it cannot yet integrate. This is not madness. It is adaptation under pressure. And adaptation, even when painful, is not the enemy. Why fear makes it worse? Fear is not neutral. When hallucinations are framed as punishment, possession, destiny, proof of being chosen or damned, the nervous system escalates. The experience intensifies. Meaning becomes rigid. The person loses choice. This book will never ask you to surrender your discernment. Instead, it offers a grounding principle. Any interpretation that increases fear, removes agency, or isolates you from support is not healing, regardless of its language. Healing interpretations do the opposite. They calm the body. They restore orientation. They return authorship of meaning to the individual. A word about God and love. Many who experience hallucinations also experience deep spiritual longing. This is not coincidence. Humans reach for meaning most intensely when suffering threatens to erase it. Love does not rush. Love does not threaten. Love does not demand belief through fear. If God is love, then love will always move toward preservation, not destruction. It is not the will of love that even one should perish. This book holds that truth carefully, not as doctrine, but as orientation. What comes next? In the chapters ahead, we will explore how the brain constructs perception, how trauma shapes inner experience, how spiritual language has helped and harmed across history, where science and spirituality overlap, and where they must remain humble, how to ground without erasing meaning, How to heal without surrendering choice. We will not rush. We will not sensationalize. We will not abandon safety. This work is not about winning an argument. It is about keeping people alive, whole, and loved. Chapter 2: A History of Seeing What Others Could Not. Long before hallucinations had a name, they had a place. Not a diagnosis. A place in stories, rituals, warnings, prayers, and survival. Across civilizations, when someone saw or heard what others could not, the question was rarely, is this real? The question was, what does this mean for us? Meaning came first. Explanation came later. When the experience was shared. In early human communities, unusual perceptions were rarely faced alone. They were interpreted collectively. A voice might be understood as ancestral memory. A warning from the tribe's past. Grief speaking through the living. A signal that the person was overwhelmed. The community's role was not to amplify fear, it was to contain the experience. Containment mattered more than certainty. When containment existed, the experience often softened. When it did not, the experience intensified. This pattern will repeat throughout history. Visions, oracles, and the weight of interpretation. As societies grew more complex, hallucinations became assigned roles. Some were elevated. Prophets. Seers. Oracles. Others were feared. Cursed. Unstable. Dangerous. The difference was rarely the experience itself. It was how the experience was framed. When hallucinations were framed as sacred, they were protected, but also burdened. When framed as dangerous, they were suppressed, often violently. Both paths removed choice. One demanded meaning. The other demanded silence. Neither asked, what does this person need? The turning point, when meaning became threatening. As religious and political power merged, hallucinations became tools. A vision could justify war. A voice could legitimize authority. An image could condemn or exalt. At the same time, experiences that did not serve the dominant story were labeled heresy, madness, possession. Fear grew, not because hallucinations were new, but because interpretation became rigid. When meaning hardens, compassion disappears. This is one of history's quiet lessons. The birth of medicine, and the loss of language. Modern medicine brought something essential: safety through explanation. By locating hallucinations in the brain, medicine reduced blame, superstition, and moral judgment. This saved lives. But something else was lost. The human need for meaning did not disappear. It simply went unaddressed. People were told what was happening, but rarely helped with shame, fear, identity disruption, spiritual confusion. When meaning is ignored, it does not vanish. It finds other ways to speak. The pattern that never changes. Across time, one pattern remains consistent. Hallucinations intensify when a person is isolated, frightened, or stripped of agency. They soften when the person is grounded, supported, and allowed choice. This is true whether the explanation is spiritual, medical, or cultural. The experience responds not only to biology, but to how it is held. A quiet truth history teaches us. The danger has never been hallucinations themselves. The danger has always been fear without context, meaning without humility, authority without compassion. Healing has never come from declaring absolute answers. Healing has come from presence. From someone saying, "You are not alone. You are not cursed. We will make sense of this together, slowly." Why this matters now. Today, we live in a fractured landscape. Science without soul. Spirituality without grounding. Information without containment. People experiencing hallucinations are often forced to choose sides when they need integration. This book refuses that false choice. Preparing for what comes next. In the next chapter, we will step inside the brain, not to reduce the experience, but to understand its intelligence. Because the brain does not create experiences to harm us. It creates them to protect us, even when the method becomes painful. Understanding that changes everything. Chapter 3: The Brain as a Meaning Maker Under Stress. The brain is not designed to show us reality exactly as it is. It is designed to keep us alive. This matters, because many misunderstand hallucinations as errors, glitches, failures, breakdowns. But from the brain's perspective, hallucinations are often attempts. Attempts to orient. Attempts to protect. Attempts to make sense of what cannot yet be held consciously. The brain is not a recorder. It is a storyteller under pressure. Perception is a prediction. Every moment, your brain predicts what the world should look like, sound like, feel like. It compares those predictions to incoming sensory data and adjusts. Most of the time, this process is seamless. You see what others see. You hear what others hear. But under certain conditions, trauma, exhaustion, isolation, sensory deprivation, prolonged fear, prediction begins to outweigh input. When that happens, perception can emerge from the inside outward rather than from the outside inward. This is not imagination in the casual sense. This is perception generated by necessity. Why trauma changes perception? Trauma overwhelms the nervous system. It floods the brain with signals that say, danger is everywhere. The body is not safe. The world is unpredictable. When the brain cannot resolve threat through action or escape, it turns inward. Memory fragments. Time blurs. Meaning fractures. Hallucinations can arise when unintegrated material, fear, grief, shame, or terror, seeks expression. Not to harm. To be known. This is why hallucinations so often carry emotional truth, even when they are not literally true. The role of dissociation. Dissociation is the brain's emergency brake. When pain becomes unbearable, the mind separates awareness from sensation. This protects survival, especially in children, whose systems are still forming. But dissociation also fragments experience. What cannot be felt may later be heard, seen, personified, externalized. The brain gives shape to what it cannot yet safely integrate. Again, not madness. Strategy. Why hallucinations often feel intentional. Many people report hallucinations that feel purposeful, watching, judging, guiding, threatening. This is not evidence of external intent. It is evidence that the brain uses social frameworks to process threat. Humans are relational beings. Our brains evolved to read faces, voices, intentions. When under stress, the mind defaults to these templates. Meaning is attached because meaning helps organize chaos. But here is a grounding truth. Feeling intentional does not mean being intentional. Feeling powerful does not mean having power. The nervous system reacts to perceived threat, not verified reality. When meaning becomes a trap. Meaning can heal, but it can also imprison. When hallucinations are interpreted as commands, judgments, signs of worth, proof of corruption or election, the brain's alarm system escalates. Fear tightens. Hypervigilance grows. The experience intensifies. This is why choice and interpretation matter more than explanation. Healing requires flexibility, not certainty. A crucial distinction. This book holds a clear line. An experience can be meaningful without being authoritative. You may learn from an experience without obeying it. You may reflect on it without surrendering to it. You may understand it without fearing it. This distinction saves lives. The brain wants safety, not control. The brain does not want domination. It wants regulation. When the body feels safer, hallucinations often soften. Frequency may decrease. Emotional charge lessens. Insight increases. This is why grounding works. This is why connection works. This is why love works. Not because they erase experience, but because they calm the system that created it. A reframing that restores dignity. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with me?" we ask, "What did my system endure? What is trying to resolve? What support was missing?" This reframing returns dignity to the person. And dignity is medicine. Preparing the ground for integration. In the next chapter, we will explore how spiritual language naturally arises during altered perception, and how it can be used without harm. We will not deny spirituality. We will not romanticize it. We will approach it with humility, history, and care. Because language matters. And the wrong language, at the wrong time, can wound. Chapter 4: Why spiritual language appears, and when it heals or harms. When the human mind encounters experiences that overwhelm ordinary language, it reaches upward. Not always toward religion, but toward symbol. Spiritual language emerges because it is one of humanity's oldest meaning-making systems. It speaks in archetypes, light and dark, good and evil, calling and danger, protection and threat. These forms are ancient because they once helped people survive the unknown. When perception shifts, the mind searches for containers large enough to hold what is happening. Spiritual language is large. Why the brain reaches for the sacred. During hallucinations, three things often occur at once. Intensity increases. Certainty feels absolute. Ordinary explanations feel insufficient. The brain, under stress, seeks coherence. Spiritual narratives offer moral structure, cosmic order, purpose during chaos, reassurance that suffering is not meaningless. This does not mean the experience is supernatural in origin. It means the language of the sacred is already stored in the human mind. The brain reaches for what it knows can carry weight. Symbol is not the same as literal. Here is one of the most important distinctions in this book. Symbolic meaning nourishes. Literal meaning can endanger. Throughout history, spiritual traditions used symbol carefully. Visions were interpreted communally, tested over time, tempered by humility, never meant to isolate the individual. Modern suffering often removes these safeguards. When symbolic experiences are treated as literal commands or external authorities, fear escalates and agency collapses. This is not spiritual maturity. It is interpretive overload. When spiritual language heals. Spiritual framing can be healing when it reduces fear, restores hope, emphasizes love and preservation, encourages grounding and support, affirms the person's worth. Examples of healing interpretations include: this experience reflects pain, not punishment. Love does not speak in threats. Nothing here overrides your safety or choice. These interpretations calm the nervous system and return authorship to the person. Healing spiritual language always moves toward life. When spiritual language harms. Spiritual language becomes harmful when it increases fear or urgency, frames suffering as deserved, isolates the person from help, claims exclusive truth, removes choice. Examples of harmful interpretations include: You are chosen, so no one else can help you. This voice must be obeyed. If you doubt this experience, you are failing spiritually. These interpretations escalate distress and deepen fragmentation. Any framework that separates a person from care is not sacred. It is dangerous. God, love, and preservation. Across traditions, one ethical thread remains consistent. Love preserves. Fear consumes. If God is love, then love will never command self-destruction. Isolate a person from help. Override conscience. Demand obedience through terror. This book holds a simple spiritual boundary. Any message that moves toward harm, despair, or annihilation does not carry the signature of love, regardless of how convincing it feels. This boundary is not theological. It is protective. Why certainty feels so strong? During hallucinations, the brain's doubt-regulating systems often weaken. Emotional salience increases. Meaning feels undeniable. Certainty is not proof. Certainty is a state of the nervous system. Understanding this allows people to hold experiences without being overtaken by them. Reclaiming discernment without fear. Discernment is not rejection. It is paced curiosity. You are allowed to ask. Does this interpretation bring peace or fear? Does it increase connection or isolation? Does it support life or threaten it? These questions restore balance without erasing meaning. A language of care. This book invites a different approach. Speak of experiences without inflaming them. Honor symbolism without literalizing it. Hold spirituality without surrendering grounding. This is not delusion. It is maturity. Preparing for the next step. In the next chapter, we will explore how fear, isolation, and interpretation can unintentionally intensify hallucinations, and how simple grounding shifts can soften them. Not as control. Not as denial. But as care. Chapter 5: Fear, Isolation, and the Feedback Loop. Hallucinations do not exist in a vacuum. They exist in systems. And systems respond to feedback. One of the most important, and least discussed, truths about hallucinations is this. The experience is shaped not only by the brain, but by how the person reacts to it, and how others respond in return. This creates a loop. A feedback loop. Understanding this loop is one of the most powerful tools for healing. How the loop begins. An unusual perception occurs. A voice. An image. A presence. A sensation. The body reacts before the mind explains. Heart rate increases. Muscles tense. Breathing shortens. The nervous system asks one question. Am I safe? If the answer feels unclear, fear enters. Fear changes the signal. Fear does not stay emotional. It becomes physiological. When fear rises, attention narrows. Threat detection increases. Neutral sensations feel ominous. Meaning becomes rigid. The brain begins scanning for confirmation of danger. This is not a flaw. It is survival biology. But in hallucinations, it can amplify the experience itself. Isolation makes fear louder. Isolation removes correction. When a person has no safe place to reflect, thoughts go untested. Interpretations harden. Fear has no counterweight. The mind turns inward repeatedly, replaying and reinforcing meaning. This is why hallucinations often intensify. Late at night. During loneliness. During secrecy. After shame. Isolation does not cause hallucinations. But it feeds them. The feedback loop, step by step. An unusual perception occurs. Fear rises. The nervous system activates. The brain increases threat prediction. The experience intensifies. Fear increases further. Around and around it goes. This loop is not moral. It is mechanical. And what is mechanical can be interrupted. Why? Fighting the experience backfires. Many are told to suppress the experience, argue with it, overpower it, prove it false. This often increases distress. Resistance increases arousal. Arousal sharpens perception. The loop tightens. Healing does not come from domination. It comes from regulation. A crucial shift, from threat to signal. Here is a reframing that lowers intensity. Something is happening in my system, and I am allowed to slow down before interpreting it. This does not deny the experience. It de-escalates it. When fear decreases, the signal often softens. The power of witnessing. Being witnessed safely changes the loop. Not analyzed. Not corrected. Not dramatized. Witnessed. A calm presence provides external regulation, reality anchoring, emotional containment. This is why support matters more than certainty. Why love interrupts the loop. Love, expressed as safety, patience, and non-judgment, sends a powerful signal to the nervous system. You are not alone. You are not in danger. The brain listens. When the body feels safer, hallucinations may lose urgency. Emotional charge diminishes. Insight becomes possible. This is not theory. It is physiology. A gentle practice, optional. If the reader experiences hallucinations, they may try this only if it feels safe. Sit or stand with feet grounded. Name 5 things you can see. Name 4 things you can feel. Name 3 things you can hear. Take 1 slow breath. This is not a cure. It is an interrupt. Interrupts create space. Space restores choice. Returning agency. The goal is never control. The goal is self-trust. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to seek support. You are allowed to choose safety over meaning in moments of overwhelm. That is not failure. That is wisdom. Preparing for what comes next. In the next chapter, we will explore how culture, language, and expectation shape hallucinations, and why experiences differ so widely between people and places. Because hallucinations do not arise only from biology. They are shaped by what the mind has been given to work with. Chapter 6: Culture, Language, and the Shape of Experience. Hallucinations do not arise in isolation from the world a person lives in. They take shape. Not just from biology, but from language, culture, belief, memory, and expectation. What a person sees, hears, or feels is influenced by what their mind already knows how to imagine. This does not make the experience false. It makes it human. Why hallucinations differ across cultures. Across the world, hallucinations vary dramatically in content. In some cultures, voices are neutral or guiding. In others, they are critical or threatening. Some see ancestors. Some see angels or demons. Some hear commands. Some hear commentary. The nervous system is similar everywhere. The symbol library is not. The brain constructs experiences using available material. The role of expectation. Expectation shapes perception. If a culture teaches, voices are signs of madness. Visions are dangerous. Altered perception equals loss of self. Then fear enters quickly, and fear intensifies the experience. If a culture teaches, experiences are symbolic. Meaning unfolds slowly. Community provides containment. The same biological experience may feel less threatening. Expectation does not create hallucinations, but it colors them. Language as a sculptor of experience. Language gives form to sensation. When an experience is named, it gains boundaries. It gains narrative. It gains emotional tone. Compare these interpretations. Something in me is distressed. I am being attacked. The nervous system responds differently to each. Words are not neutral. They either regulate or escalate. Why modern culture struggles? Modern society often offers two extremes. Pathologize everything. Spiritualize everything. Both can strip agency. People are rarely taught how to hold ambiguity, tolerate uncertainty, stay grounded without denial, explore meaning without obsession. Without guidance, meaning fills the vacuum, sometimes dangerously. Media, stories, and fear templates. Movies, religious imagery, and cultural narratives provide ready-made templates for fear. When a mind under stress reaches for meaning, it often pulls from horror imagery, apocalyptic themes, moral judgment narratives. Not because they are true, but because they are available. The brain uses what it has. A liberating insight. Here is a truth that reduces fear. The form an experience takes says more about the mind's library than about the nature of reality. This insight restores flexibility. You are not obligated to accept the first story your mind offers. Choosing language that heals. Healing language tends to be descriptive, not declarative. Flexible, not absolute. Grounded, not cosmic. Compassionate, not moralizing. For example, this feels intense right now. My nervous system is activated. I don't have to solve this today. These phrases lower arousal. Lower arousal restores choice. Culture can heal too. Culture is not the enemy. Music, ritual, prayer, art, and story can regulate emotion. Create meaning without fear. Connect people. Restore rhythm. When used gently, culture becomes medicine rather than myth. Reclaiming narrative authority. Perhaps the most healing shift is this. You are allowed to be the author of your understanding, even if the story is unfinished. No voice, image, or interpretation outranks your safety. No framework overrides your humanity. Preparing for the next chapter. In the next chapter, we will explore when and how professional help supports healing, without shame, coercion, or loss of dignity. Because seeking help is not surrender. It is wisdom. Chapter 7, Support, Medicine, and the Return of Stability. For many, the idea of seeking help brings mixed emotions. Relief. Fear. Hope. Shame. This chapter exists to remove shame from the conversation. Because support is not a verdict. It is a resource. And stability is not the loss of meaning. It is the ground that allows meaning to be held safely. Why support matters. Hallucinations are not just experiences of perception. They are experiences of regulation. When the nervous system remains overwhelmed for too long, it becomes difficult to sleep. Think flexibly. Evaluate meaning. Feel safe in one's body. Support introduces external regulation when internal regulation is strained. This is not weakness. It is how human systems recover. The role of trusted humans. Before medicine, before diagnosis, before explanation, there is relationship. A trusted person can interrupt isolation. Provide grounding. Challenge fear gently. Reflect reality without dismissal. Healing accelerates when a person is no longer alone with their experience. Even one steady presence can change the trajectory. What professional help is, and is not. Professional care is often misunderstood. It is not a declaration that something is wrong with you. A loss of spiritual depth. A surrender of autonomy. At its best, professional support is collaborative, stabilizing, protective, choice-centered. You remain the expert on your experience. Medicine as stabilizer, not eraser. Medication is not designed to erase the self. Its purpose is often to reduce intensity, quiet overstimulation, restore sleep, widen the window of tolerance. For some, medication is temporary. For others, it is longer-term support. Both are valid. Medicine does not define identity. It creates space. And space allows healing to unfold. Choice is central. Ethical care always honors consent. You have the right to ask questions, understand risks and benefits, express concerns, adjust or refuse treatment. Care that removes choice increases fear. Care that respects choice restores trust. When immediate help is necessary. This book speaks gently, but clearly. If hallucinations include commands to self-harm, urges toward harm, loss of orientation, inability to care for basic needs, immediate support is essential. Seeking urgent help is not failure. It is preservation. Life comes first. Always. Integrating support with meaning. Support does not cancel spirituality. Stability does not erase depth. In fact, when the nervous system calms, symbolism becomes clearer. Fear loosens its grip. Interpretation becomes flexible. Support allows meaning to be explored without danger. A reframe that restores dignity. Instead of asking, "Why do I need help?" we ask, "What conditions help me stay whole?" This question is rooted in care, not judgment. The goal is not silence. The goal is integration. Not the elimination of experience, but the restoration of balance, choice, and connection. Stability is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of healing work that can be done safely. Preparing for the next chapter. In the next chapter, we will explore how to live with experiences without being ruled by them, how people reclaim identity, creativity, and peace. Because you are not your symptoms. You are a whole person who has endured something. Chapter 8, Living Without Fear, Identity Beyond the Experience. One of the quiet harms hallucinations cause is not the experience itself, but what people begin to believe about who they are because of it. I am broken. I am dangerous. I cannot trust myself. This defines me. This chapter exists to loosen those beliefs. Because an experience is something you have, not something you are. When identity shrinks, hallucinations often pull attention inward. Life narrows. Roles fade. The person becomes defined by monitoring, managing, or fearing what might happen next. Identity shrinks to symptoms, vigilance, survival. This is understandable, but it is not permanent. Healing begins when identity is allowed to expand again. You are more than the loudest signal. The mind has a bias toward intensity. What is loud feels important. What is frightening feels central. But this is not the full story of you. You are also the one who notices, the one who reflects, the one who chooses, the one who seeks love and understanding. These parts remain intact, even when experiences are overwhelming. They are not erased. Reclaiming the observer. One of the most powerful shifts a person can make is this. I am the one experiencing this, not the experience itself. This creates distance without denial. Observation restores perspective, flexibility, choice. You do not need to suppress what happens. You are allowed to witness it. Fear does not equal truth. Fear feels convincing. It narrows attention. It demands certainty. But fear is a state, not a verdict. Learning to ask, what am I feeling? What am I assuming? What do I actually know? Restores balance. Curiosity softens fear. Softness restores control. Living a full life alongside experience. Many people wait for experiences to disappear before they allow themselves to live. This waiting can become its own prison. Life does not need to pause until certainty arrives. People heal by returning to creativity, reconnecting with others, engaging purpose, caring for the body, honoring rest. Meaning grows when life resumes. Creativity as integration. Art, writing, music, movement, these are not escapes. They are integration tools. Creativity allows the nervous system to express without explanation, move emotion without judgment, transform intensity into form. Creation returns authorship. You are not being spoken through. You are speaking. Boundaries with inner experience. Living without fear does not mean listening to everything. You are allowed to say, not now. I will return to this later. This does not get to decide for me. Boundaries are not rejection. They are care. Faith without fear. For those who hold faith, this matters deeply. Faith rooted in love grounds. Faith rooted in fear fragments. You are allowed to relate to God through gentleness, trust, patience, preservation. Not urgency. Not threat. Not condemnation. Love does not compete for your sanity. A quiet truth. Healing is not the absence of unusual experience. Healing is the return of peace, agency, and self-trust. Many people live full, meaningful lives with experiences that no longer rule them. This is possible. Preparing for the next chapter. In the next chapter, we will speak directly to those who support, love, and walk alongside someone experiencing hallucinations, how to help without harming, how to stay present without fear. Because healing is relational. Chapter 9, Loving Someone Through the Experience. To love someone who is experiencing hallucinations is to walk a delicate path. You may feel fear for their safety, confusion about what to say, pressure to fix what you cannot control, uncertainty about what is real. This chapter exists to offer steadiness, not perfection. Because love is not measured by answers. It is measured by presence. The most important thing to know. You do not need to understand the experience in order to help. You need to understand the person. Trying to debate, correct, or decode hallucinations often increases distress. Trying to listen, ground, and stay calm often reduces it. The nervous system learns from the nervous system. Your calm matters. What helps most? Loving someone well often looks simple, but it is powerful. Helpful responses include: I'm here with you. You're not alone. That sounds really intense. We can slow this down together. These statements do not validate fear. They validate the person. What to avoid, gently. Certain responses, even when well-intended, can escalate distress. Arguing about reality. Reinforcing frightening interpretations. Dismissing the experience entirely. Expressing panic or urgency. Isolating the person for their own good. Fear feeds fear. Love feeds regulation. Holding reality without confrontation. You do not need to agree with interpretations in order to remain grounded. A helpful stance sounds like, I don't experience that myself, but I see how real it feels to you. Let's focus on helping your body feel safe right now. This preserves truth without escalation. Why your presence matters so much. Isolation intensifies hallucinations. Connection softens them. Your presence anchors reality. Interrupts the feedback loop. Reduces shame. Restores orientation. Even quiet companionship matters. You are not insignificant in this process. Supporting without taking control. It can be tempting to step in fully, to manage, monitor, or decide for the person. But healing requires agency. Offer support without domination. Invite rather than command. Suggest rather than insist. Collaborate rather than control. Trust grows where choice remains intact. When to seek additional help. Love also knows when it needs backup. If you notice escalating fear, commands toward harm, loss of sleep or nourishment, withdrawal from reality, inability to care for basic needs, seeking professional help is an act of love, not betrayal. Preservation comes first. Caring for yourself. Supporting someone in distress can be exhausting. You are allowed to rest. Ask for support. Set boundaries. Acknowledge your limits. Burnout helps no one. Love that endures is sustainable. A sacred responsibility. To love someone through this experience is not to carry them. It is to walk beside them. You cannot replace their journey. You can remind them. They are worthy. They are not alone. They are still themselves. That reminder matters more than you know. Preparing for the next chapter. In the next chapter, we will bring everything together, integration, hope, and the future, and speak directly to the reader about what healing can become over time. Not an ending. A continuation. Chapter 10, Integration, Hope, and the Way Forward. Healing is not a single moment. It is a direction. A slow turning toward life, toward meaning that does not harm, toward love that does not demand fear as proof. This chapter is not a conclusion. It is an orientation. Integration is not erasure. Many people believe healing means the experience must disappear. For some, it does. For others, it softens. For others still, it changes shape. Integration does not ask you to erase what happened. It asks you to place it within a larger story, one where it no longer rules. You are not required to forget. You are invited to outgrow fear. What integration looks like. Integration often arrives quietly. It looks like moments of calm where panic once lived. Choice returning where compulsion once ruled. Curiosity replacing dread. Rest becoming possible again. Identity expanding beyond survival. It looks like living. Not perfectly. Not without struggle. But with self-trust. Meaning without domination. You may still reflect on your experiences. You may still ask what they point to, what they reveal, what they ask of you. But meaning no longer commands. It converses. You are allowed to hold questions without answering them. You are allowed to revisit interpretation as you grow. You are allowed to let love, not urgency, lead. A word about hope. Hope is often misunderstood. Hope is not optimism. Hope is not denial. Hope is the quiet confidence that you are not finished. That your nervous system can learn safety again. That your mind can regain flexibility. That your spirit can rest without being threatened. Hope grows slowly, and that is enough. Faith, reclaimed. For those who hold faith, let this be said clearly. God is not in competition with your sanity. Love does not require your fear. Preservation is not weakness, it is sacred. It is not the will of love that even one should perish. If your faith moves you toward life, connection, humility, and care, it is aligned. If it moves you toward terror, isolation, or annihilation, pause. Love waits. The future is not a verdict. You are not sentenced by your past experiences. You are not defined by what your mind did to survive. The future is not something you must conquer. It is something you enter, slowly, supported, whole. To the reader, directly. If you are reading this and still struggling, hear this. You are not late. You are not failing. You are not beyond help. Healing is not linear. Setbacks do not erase progress. Rest is part of the work. You matter, not because of what you endure, but because you exist. A final covenant. This book does not ask you to believe anything. It asks only this. Choose life. Choose safety. Choose love. Choose help when needed. Choose yourself, again and again. That choice is holy. One person. One peace. One world. Healing humanity does not happen all at once. It happens. One person choosing not to perish. One fear softened. One voice met with care. One mind learning safety again. That is how light enters dark corners. Not with force, but with presence. A closing prayer. God of life. God of love. God who sees every hidden place. We come not with certainty, but with humility. Not with answers, but with open hands. For every mind that has known fear, bring calm. For every heart that has carried shame, bring gentleness. For every soul that has felt alone in the dark, bring presence. Where the nervous system learned danger, teach it safety again. Where the mind learned vigilance, teach it rest. Where meaning became heavy, teach it to breathe. Protect those who suffer. Not by erasing their story, but by surrounding it with love. May no voice speak louder than love. May no interpretation outrank preservation. May no fear claim authority over life. You have said it is not your will that even one should perish. So let love find the lost places. Let light enter without force. Let healing come without harm. One person. One moment. One piece at a time. Amen. A closing reflection. If you have reached the end of this book, pause here for a moment. Not to decide what it all means, but to notice that you are still here. Still breathing. Still choosing. Still capable of understanding without being consumed. This book was never meant to give you a final answer. It was meant to return something far more important. Agency. Dignity. Hope. You are not required to explain everything you have experienced. You are not obligated to make meaning before you are ready. You are not failing if healing is slow. Understanding unfolds at the pace of safety. What matters most is not what you have seen or heard, but that you are alive, connected, and worthy of care. If anything in these pages helped soften fear, even slightly, that is enough. If anything helped you feel less alone, that is sacred. And if you are still struggling, let this be the truth you carry forward. You are not broken. You are not abandoned. You are not expendable. Healing does not come all at once. It comes the way love does. Patiently, quietly, faithfully. One person. One peace. One world slowly restored. And that is more than enough.